Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Lunghofer. I'm the Executive Director of the Gray Muzzle organization, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Abby Ouimet and Amanda Grant, who will be helping to moderate your questions today. As you know, we'll be talking about behavior and enrichment, and I am so excited to introduce today's panelist, Victoria Stilwell. Victoria is a world-renowned dog trainer, best known as the star of the international hit TV series It's Me or the Dog on Animal Planet, as well as numerous other TV and web series. Having filmed over 110 episodes of It's Me or the Dog since 2005, Victoria reaches audiences in over 120 countries with her philosophy of positive training methods. A best-selling author of 5 books, she appears frequently in the media and is widely recognized as a leader in the field of animal behavior. Victoria is a passionate advocate for positive dog training methods. She is the editor-in-chief of Positively.com, the founder of Victoria Stilwell Academy for Dog Training and Behavior, and the CEO of Victoria Stilwell Positively Dog Training, the world's premier global network of positive dog trainers. She's committed to the cause of animal rescue and rehabilitation, and all of us at Gray Muzzle are so thankful that she's a member of our advisory board. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Victoria. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here. I'm trying to get the Facebook Live up, but it still says preparing. So I was hoping that you guys also could answer questions or ask questions on Facebook Live, but I don't think it's doing it. So that doesn't matter because you're all here and I will answer questions here. Good to be here, and yes, I am the mom to 2 senior dogs. One is Jasmine, she's about 11 years old, and the other one is, I was going to say Jemima. Why was I going to say Jemima? The other one's Bella. She's a Shih Tzu mix, and she is, we think about 13. Anyway, Jasmine came into our lives when she was 6 months old, 5 months, 6 months old, and she's been just the love of our lives. And Bella came into our lives about 2 years ago now. She was actually a cruelty case found in a hot car. I think when the lady came and broke the window, she had a thermometer and she put it up to the dashboard, and it was about 140 degrees on the dashboard. So Bella was one of the dogs that was found in the stairwell of the car. So fortunately, she was okay. She survived, and then she came to us, and she lives a great life now. So I love the Gray Muzzle organization. I think it's an amazing organization, and I'm very proud to be part of that. And I'm just here to answer your questions. I mean, feel free to ask me anything. It doesn't matter if you have an old dog or not. Feel free to ask me anything. Hopefully I'll be able to answer it. No medical questions though, because I am a dog trainer and behavior expert, and I'm not in the medical field. So I just want to say that right away. A little bit about me. I run the Victoria Stilwell Academy, which is an academy that teaches people to become dog trainers. And it's an online academy, but then you can do an in-person track as well. So we've had hundreds of students go through from all over the world and start new careers and very successful careers as dog trainers. And even in this time of COVID, they're able to do virtual consultations. So it's really been interesting to see how everybody's adapted. I still film shows when I can, and my latest show, if you're in the US, you'll be able to see it. I don't know when it's going to be airing, but it will be on the Smithsonian Channel, and it's called Dogs with Extraordinary Jobs. So hopefully you'll be able to see that. But I started on TV, as you know, on It's Me or the Dog, and I started filming that. I created it in late 2004 and started filming in 2005. So that went on for 10 years. And yes, I have a company called Positively. That's where, if you go to positively.com, that's where all of our great information that you need to know about dogs, that's where you can find VSPDT trainers, which Victoria Stilwell Positively Dog Training trainers. And I think that's about it. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Yes, you certainly do a lot. We have had quite a few questions come in, so we'll just fire away if that's okay with you.
Yes, please.
So the first question has to do with marking. Someone has a Beagle who is housebroken but keeps marking in the house. So is there a way to course correct that behavior?
Is that male or is that dog male or female?
She said he is housebroken, so I'm assuming a man.
Sorry, I didn't get that. I didn't get the sex part. So yeah, you know, okay, this is it's a problem. How old is he?
She didn't say. Susan, if you have a little bit more info, feel free to type it in there.
Yeah, and how long has the behavior been going on? Has it always been there since he was a puppy, or has it just started? Did something happen, like a new dog did a new dog come into the house, or a new animal? Did you move? Because when I think about marking, I always try to find the trigger point. Is it just the dog's normal habitual behavior? Is he part of a multi-dog household? Is he part of a multi-animal household? Is there any kind of changes that have happened in the house?
So she did say she rescued him 2 years ago. He's 11 years old.
And how long has the behavior been going on? That's really important when it's a scent marking issue. Because, of course, with elderly dogs, we're always looking for expressions of pain. And marking can be an expression of pain, discomfort. So if she could let me know that.
Okay.
If you see, if there's a sudden onset of this behavior, as I said, you've got to find the trigger. What is the trigger? Did you bring a new animal into the household? Has there been an argument lately? Did you move house? All of those kinds of things. And first of all, as with any behavior, you get a medical checkup first, just to make sure that the marking's not to do with any kind of urinary tract infection.
So she said she has 3 dogs, and she says he's been doing it since she's had him, so for 2 years, and she thinks maybe it was leftover behavior from his previous household.
Yeah. If he's been doing it since he came to you, then then it seems like it would be a habitual behavior. Now, scent marking is a very difficult behavior to get under control because it requires constant supervision. And I mean, you can use belly bands, you can use all kinds of things to actually stop the dog from marking, because in a way that will help you as you deal with the behavior. As you clean everything up with a good deodorizer that cuts the ammonia of the urine out. If you make a list of the places that he's marking, and then you block him off from going to those places. So with marking dogs, what we do is we give them a lot of opportunity to mark outside by taking them to different places, different locations, and we give them a lot of enrichment, good exercise as appropriate for an older dog. And then when in the home, if we cannot be there to actively supervise the dog to stop them marking, the dog has to be in either a puppy-proof safe zone or a crate. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the more the dog rehearses the behavior, the more the scent is put out there, the more he's going to do it. So it's almost like you have to have that supervision, do the enrichment, take him out for different walks in different places so he has the opportunity to mark. But when you're at home, then his freedom, as it were, is much less until you can get this under control. Sometimes people do use belly bands because they just can't. Because if you're busy, you have a busy household, you have other dogs to look after, you have kids in the household, and you cannot be observing and watching your dog 24/7, then I'm not against those at all. I think that they can be really helpful. The difference, you can tell the difference between a dog that marks and a dog that has urine problems or that has house training issues. When a dog toilets, it takes a while for the dog to express that urine, right? But marking actually is where they release small bits of urine in different places. So it is easy to tell whether it's a house training problem or a marking problem by the amount of urine that's deposited in certain locations. And that's why scent marking can be, you know, can be easy to detect, can be easy to see, rather than, oh, this dog's got a house training issue. So I hope that helps you. It is a hard behavior to deal with, but yeah, the constant supervision. Some people actually will tie the dogs to them, and they will use a leash and they will put it around their waist inside the house, and the dog goes everywhere they go. And that means that they can catch the behavior before it starts. Take the dog outside. Now, the reason why people do that is, as I said, rehearsal behavior means that there'll just be more and more and more, right? So if you stop it though, and then you fill the dog's life with other things, there will be that less desire to scent mark in the home. And we hope that that behavior goes into extinction.
Thank you. So the next question we had, she says, my senior pup is around 9 or 10, and I was wondering what are some bonding activities we can do. He doesn't really like training and he loves to cuddle. What else can we do besides take long walks?
Okay, so bonding. How long have you had him for? I think 2 years. Okay. And what's he like? Has he always been a little bit, he was adopted as a senior. Has he always been a little standoffish, or does he play with toys at all? Anything? He's super cuddly. Okay, that's good. But you just want to have other ways that you can bond with him. Okay. Part Dachshund and he likes digging for toys. Okay. Okay, your corgi and you do obedience. All right, this is interesting. So something equivalent to that. Okay. I'm going to put the chat shot so that I can actually see it up there. Lovely. Okay. Other ways to bond. Well, of course, yes, walking is a wonderful way to bond. For dogs that like massage, massage is a wonderful way to bond. For dogs that like sitting in front of the TV, that's a great way to bond. Play is an amazing way to bond. And if your dog likes digging, what I like to do is get like a dig pit and hide toys in it. And you can dig together as long as your dog isn't a resource guarder. That's kind of a nice activity. You pretend to dig and the other dog digs, so it's an activity that you're doing together. I really like that. If you could find other games that you can play with him, that's really good as well. That sort of, those calmer activities, listening to calm music, riding in the car. I've seen people with small dogs put them on the front or the back of their bicycles. Certainly with senior dogs as well, and ride along with them, that kind of thing. It truly is, it's kind of watching the dog and finding what their jam is, and then using what they love to do and becoming part of the game, as long as the dog is happy that you are part of the game. That's why I like the game of tug so much, because tug is a really great bonding experience. It's a great way to share toys. It's a great way to win and lose the game, and to teach your dog to win and lose the game. So I really, really like play. I think play is the most important bonder and the most effective bonder. So if you can find games that your dog loves to do, play. Now, puzzles as well can be quite a solitary activity, dog puzzles, but the very fact that you put the puzzle out in front of your dog is, and maybe like there when your dog tries to sort the puzzle out, that can be a bonding experience too. So I do like activities such as rally obedience and things like that, but here's my problem with a lot of obedience. Is my issue with it is that I don't, oh my gosh, Anna, I hope I'm not going to put a spanner in the works, but okay, here we go. I actually really don't like having dogs sit all the time. Or lie down all the time, especially when they're senior dogs. I don't understand this kind of desire to have our dogs sit for everything. I think, especially for senior dogs, just learning impulse control standing with a nice weight or something is really good. So starting to do those kind of, if you want to do the obedience training, I call it cooperation, I call it life skills, where your dog cooperates with you and learns new things. I like teaching the stand and wait. I think that's a really, really good one for dogs to learn, because it teaches them impulse control and it teaches them to quiet. The other good one is settle as well. Settle's more of a life skill that allows dogs just to calm down in certain environments and certain situations. So hopefully that gives you some good ideas.
She says, thank you so much. And our next question is from Mary. She says, my 14-year-old border collie paces for hours every night. What can I do? Her health is good.
14-year-old dog paces day and night.
Paces for hours every night.
Every night. Okay. Does she sleep a lot during the day?
Mary, if you have any other information to share with us, she says yes.
Yes, so she does. So night becomes more of a time of activity. It's very common to see this in people as well as animals. When dogs are elderly and they have a certain, maybe a little bit of cognitive decline, that their body clocks also almost change around. And nighttime seems to bring on can make elderly dogs more anxious. And that's why for some elderly dogs, they will sleep all day, and because their body clocks are out of whack, and then they will show a lot more activity at night, and they can get quite anxious as well. They bark more, they'll whine, they'll pace. And so this is what you have to do. You say that he has, that he's healthy otherwise, and it sounds like, if he's sleeping well during the day, then he's not in any pain, or but the pacing at night, it could be because of the weather, it could be because it's quieter and he hears more noises and that makes him more anxious. Therefore, that's why at night we keep the lights on and we have music playing. But what I found with the elderly dogs is that getting them up more during the day helps them sleep better at night. So if your dog is sleeping a lot during the day, wake them up. Of course, they're allowed to have naps at times, but wake them up. Go and do a low energy activity, or take them out for a walk. So keep them awake as long as you can, with a few naps in between, so that by the time the night comes, your dog is more likely to be tired, so he doesn't get that nighttime anxiety and then that desire to pace. Humans are creatures of habit. We do a lot of the same things at night. We'll eat our dinner and might sit in front of the television, and sometimes that's a dog's way of getting attention, is to pace. But mostly I do find that has a sort of anxiety component. Now, dogs are crepuscular, which means that they hunt in times of twilight, at dawn and at twilight. Dawn and dusk, I should say. And therefore, sometimes we see in all dogs, including elderly dogs, more activity at these times, which happens to be the times around the times that you are eating dinner, sitting down and watching television. So there could be that kind of component. What about giving your dog an activity to do? So you've kept him up quite a bit throughout the day, giving him the naps that he needs. But at the time where you see that, you know that it's kind of his trigger point, well, why don't you give him an activity like stuffing a Kong with some delicious food? You can use part of his meal, putting it in the freezer, and then bringing it out so that he can chew on. And as long as he likes to, cool it down a tiny bit or warm it up a tiny bit so it's not so freezing. And so give your dog a chewing activity. So you're actually, because when I see any dogs that are indulging in a certain activity that I think might be detrimental to them, there's still energy there, and that energy needs to go somewhere. So teaching the dog to settle or to try calm down is hard. But if you redirect that energy and put it into something different, you might find that your dog actually, instead of pacing, begins to look forward to his nighttime ritual, and that behavior will start to modify. So I hope that helps.
Our next question is from Cheryl. She says, I have an 11-year-old Chihuahua mix, rescued her when she was about 6 months old. At about 1 year of age, she started to show a nasty streak, very territorial and growler with her 5 other rescues. I have tried positive training, negative training, unfortunately a shock collar, yet she has still continued this mean streak for the rest of her life. What do you recommend? Or is it too late to try and change this little one? She is in love with people, but has progressively gotten worse with age.
Cheryl, well, you've tried a lot with her, and this is unfortunately 11 years. This started around 1 year age, then you've got 10 years of habit. So it's unlikely your dog is not going to become a love bug with your other dogs. And so it's interesting the words you use, and this is by no means a criticism because we all use it. I have a Chihuahua mix too. I know what you're talking about. So Chihuahuas tend to, for their small size, be very small dogs or large dogs in very small bodies. But the words like, nasty or mean are, I think, words that looks like that kind of behavior, but dogs that resource guard are actually incredibly insecure. Everybody resource guards. We resource guard. We alarm our homes and we alarm our cars because we don't want anyone taking them. When we're eating our food, we really don't like other people coming and taking food off our plates. We resource guard our things. And somebody comes and takes something from us that we didn't give them, we don't like that. And it's the same for our dogs. Now, why we alarm our cars and why we alarm our homes is that we're scared because it's quite likely that people could come and steal things that we have brought into our homes and we need. And it's the same for dogs. Resource guarding is a very normal behavior, especially in a multi-dog household. And resource guarding is all about who has priority access to what. It's all about keeping that resource, whether that resource means that that is a food resource or that resource is a bed. Either way, that resource is important for survival, for comfort, and brings that dog pleasure. So when somebody else wants to take that resource or wants priority access to that resource, problems can happen. And with 4 other dogs in the household, think you said 5 other rescues in the household, I think your dog's been under a hell of a lot of stress. Because some dogs, they don't care. It's just not a big deal. Whilst others things really matter to them. And so we use human labels like nasty and mean. When you really boil this behavior down, it comes from a place of insecurity, because secure dogs, they have no reason to resource guard things. Now, when the behavior starts happening and the dog finds that actually resource guarding works, then a confidence comes that actually this behavior works, and the dog becomes more confident with their expression of behavior. So that's why people label these dogs sometimes as dominant or as confident, and they're not, because it comes from a place of insecurity. So I want you to put nasty and mean out of your head. And I want you to start looking at this in a different way. First of all, you get rid of everything that your dog is likely to resource. And that means you get rid of toys, areas, if it's areas, food, and you just get rid of all the triggers. That in itself will be so much less stressful for your dog. But that doesn't mean that your dogs can't have toys. It just means that when the other dogs have toys, your Chihuahua mix is put away. Or there's chew time. So this is what I do with multi-dog households with dogs that are aggressive with each other over resources. Says, okay, you can have it, but you're all going to be fed separately. And then there are times of the day when you get chew time, and you're all going to chew separately. Unless there's 2 dogs that can chew together and they're fine. But the ones that aren't, you're going to get separate time. And I'm telling you, this takes stress levels right down. Because what you might not see is that your dog is just trying to negotiate all the time. And that stress builds and builds and builds and is chronic. It becomes chronic. It's not acute stress. It becomes chronic. And your dog has learned to live with that. Multi-dog households for certain dogs, especially resource guarding dogs, are incredibly overwhelming. And that's why remove all the triggers, start doing chew time, where they can all have their toys and have a good old chew and then go run out and play in the garden or in the yard, and do that with food, and don't have toys lying around. If they want to have toy time or whatever, that's separate. You'll bring the stress level from here down to here. You'll see less chance for your dog to express that behavior, and your dog's confidence will grow because your dog doesn't feel that need to do it. Now, the reason why I'm dead against shock collars or punishment of any kind, and when I mean punishment, I'm meaning positive punishment, like physical punishment, screaming at the dog, shouting at the dog, is that, as you see, it doesn't work. And actually, it increases insecurity, because shock collars, for example, they put, there's a momentary cessation of behavior, right? So the person is positively reinforced because they see a change in their dog immediately, but that dog actually feels a lot worse. So what you're going to see is that the behavior might be under control for a bit with a shock collar, but you take that collar off, boom, it'll be right back. And what this does is the dog doesn't actually learn anything. So when I'm talking about positive training, I'm talking about not just giving the dog a cookie. I'm talking about a whole new way of living with dogs. And it means that you are marking with praise or toys or play or whatever behavior that you like seeing in your dog. If there's behavior you don't like, you use management to stop it, which means you're preventing it by identifying the triggers and getting rid of anything that causes that behavior, or adding something like a baby gate that separates dogs, so not able to practice that behavior. And then you work on modification, which is just a whole new lifestyle, and it's actually really easy. Shock collars will suppress behavior, they don't change it. They don't change the way a dog feels inside. Punitive training does not, stops behavior for a little bit, but it doesn't change the way the dog feels inside. It makes it worse, but it doesn't teach the dog what to do in a scenario. So I think because your dog is 11 years old, I want you to use a lot of management. Write down those triggers, see where it happens, remove everything, add a baby gate, relieve stress by feeding separately, toys separately, walks together, good things that your dog enjoys together. That you will see a change of behavior. And it doesn't mean obedience training. And it doesn't mean, oh my God, I've got to do hours and hours and hours of training. Literally, it's a habit. I have, and will be introducing in the next 3-4 months, a completely new set of what I call protocols, which is coping strategies for every dog. It's called BRAVE, B-R-A-V-E. And what it is that they are simple, quick, and effective strategies for every dog, regardless of the behavior issues that they have. So I hope that helps. It's kind of a new way of understanding resource guarding. Dogs will control, that's just the way it is. But some dogs will control more than others. It doesn't mean actually they're trying to be dominant. Dominant is not a character trait in dogs. Dominance is a social relationship between animals of the same species, and it's all about who has priority access to what resource and who naturally defers to another dog when that dog is around that resource. It's a long answer to your question, but I hope that helps.
Victoria, in conjunction with Cheryl's question, and Cheryl says, thank you very much. Cindy asks, what if the resource they are guarding is their human?
Yeah. I'm really glad you asked that question, because that's a tough one. So sometimes, there's a whole load of things I've done. When the trigger is you, and this is hard to do, but I find it's really effective. So bear with me. When the trigger is you, when all the dogs are together, you become a little less bothered with them all, right? It's almost like, it's not that you're not paying them attention, but you're just like, you take, because it's all vying for attention, right? It's all vying for that closeness. There's a lot of anger in resource guarding, especially when it's a human, because there's jealousy. Dogs will get jealous, and the emotion of jealousy is very close to the emotion of anger. So it's a really horrible way to feel. I mean, you know what being jealous feels like. You know what angry feels like. And so when people say, when people are talking about jealousy with other people, like, you get away from my boyfriend, or stop looking at my husband or girlfriend, or whatever it is, dogs are doing the same things with humans. So now you got a kind of an idea of how that dog feels. You almost just take that emotion out of it by just being, which means that you just, when they're all together, you just don't bother. And then sometimes in a multi-dog household, everybody needs to do this. There has to be time when each dog has a little time and space with their person, away from the other dogs. That could be out on a walk where you're just walking one dog. Or that could be in a room where you're just hanging out and having chew time, or you're doing massage or whatever with your dog. One-on-one time, right? And that can happen separately. That's when you give your attention to each of your dogs. But when all your dogs are together, it's almost like you're like the teacher. Your emotion goes out of it. Hard to do, I know. let's talk about the sofa. You're sitting down watching television. All your dogs are trying to vie for your attention. If they are, I just get up and I walk away. It diffuses any kind of angst. And then what I do as well is I teach dogs to actually go settle on different mats. So the mats are arranged on the floor, and they are arranged in an exact equal distance away from me. And I teach them to go settle on their mats. That I found a really effective way. If I can't do that, then maybe I have a system of some baby gates, or one dog is crated where the other one, do you see what I mean? So you start to share time. That I found is, again, a really effective way to teach your dog how to effectively share. So I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. These are such wonderful. I feel like I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch it up and go to the Q&A box. We've had tons of questions come in. So this next one is from Tina. She says she has an 8-year-old black lab who still acts like a puppy, which is generally a good thing, except when they see other dogs on the street. She gets so excited, she still wants to pull me and jump on the owners. Any tips for that? And then she actually had a second question that was, how can you tell if your senior dog would like or is ready for another dog companion? So 2 parts there.
Yeah, there's a lot of frustration walking at the other end of that leash. The leash is a canine life preserver. We need it on our dogs for safety, but for dogs, they're the worst invention ever, because they stop a dog's ability to act naturally. They stop a dog's ability from going to say hello whenever they want, or from running away when they want. And that's why we see such reactivity on the leash, because you've got dogs that are frustrated. They want to go say hi and they can't because you're keeping them back. Or you get dogs that like, I just want to get out of here, and you're getting too close to this other dog and human being, and I don't want any of that. And so therefore, I'm going to lunge and show how I feel. Which is your dog? Does your dog like other dogs? You take your dogs to a dog park, and your dog loves other dogs. So is your dog just a frustrated greeter? Is your dog conflicted? Because there are lots of dogs that are conflicted. I might want to say hello to you, but I don't really know, but I might, but or the dogs are like, you get out of my face, and I don't want to know you, right? And I don't want you in my space. So first of all, you have to find out what that is. And normally you can find that by your dog's reaction to other dogs, maybe in your home or in your neighborhood, or if you get a dog from a shelter asking, have they done any kind, how is the dog around other dogs, that kind of stuff. So labs are very powerful, and they can pull, and especially when they're lunging on the other end of the leash. So it's a tough one. So first of all, what I do is that I use a chest-led harness. Now, regular harnesses actually increase pulling, but chest-led harnesses, where the harness is attached to a loop on the chest area, which is the dog's center of gravity, actually make it harder for the dogs to pull. I have the positively no pull harness, and I've designed it with 2 loops on either side of the center of the chest. So if the person's walking this side, they would attach their leash to this side, because there's natural play in every harness. So when the dog pulls, the loop will come to the center of gravity. And the same if the person walks the dog on the other side. So wherever you're walking, if you're walking that side, then you clip the leash to the far loop. Do you see what I mean? And then I have a 2-point leash. So one attaches to the back, and then one attaches to that, one of the loops in the front. And then it's kind of like using reins on a horse. That so helps with dogs that are pullers, whether they've got reactive issues or whether they're just pullers because they want to get to a smell. So let's say now you've got that harness on, and it's much better. How are you going to quell your dog's excitement? It's great that your dog is excited. It's great. But at this time of social distancing especially, we cannot let our dogs do that. So how do you do it? Well, it's really hard. But again, there is a lot of energy in that behavior. So it's up to you now to divert that energy onto something else. Whether when you see a person or another dog coming, oh, that's the trigger to play your tug game. And the only time you play a tug game is when you're out on a walk. Or, hey, you see another person or a dog, that's the trigger. Now all of a sudden we're going to play the go find it game. You got your packet of treats, your pouch of treats, and you start putting a treat on the ground, and the dog goes and gets it. And then another treat, and the dog goes and gets it. You say, go find, go find. So instead of a dog going out, the dog's nose is going down. It's all about getting that energy that's going out to something pulling or putting the head down. Because when the dog is putting the head down, it can't put its head out. Do you see what I mean? And then do you walk with other dogs? Do you have people that you can still socially distance with, but you've got your 6-foot leashes, and the dogs can say hello, and then you can go for a walk? So there's not such this great kind of excitement, because the more a dog does it, the less exciting it becomes, because it just becomes quite a normal process, right? So, but I'm glad your lab is exuberant. Okay, just has to learn a little bit more impulse, self-control, which is hard.
Thank you. There was actually a couple of questions about dogs being reactive on leashes, so hopefully that was helpful to multiple people. The next question is from Mary, and she said she has a 2-year-old Aussie Doodle who was rescued from a puppy mill. She is very submissive. She still behaves, she says, like an untrusted. I'm not sure if that means she doesn't trust her person, or she just has trust issues. She did put her in a teacup agility class. She also submissively pees. So it sounds like she's still kind of a shy guy. And what can Mary do to help her?
Okay. Very normal. Part of my work is I do a lot of puppy mill busts, and after that, when the dogs go into homes, how do you get your dog to transition into a home, especially when they've been from that kind of environment? Even puppies that are born in that environment can turn out to be quite anxious, and of course the breeding stock, when they're rehomed and they've never been in that environment before, it really doesn't matter like how much modification you do, that they're still going to remain pretty weary of things, or wary of things, I'm sorry, and anxious, a little stressed out, okay? And that's just normal, because that's the environment they were raised in. We know that puppies that are born in that environment actually can, if the mother's stressed, the puppies will be affected in utero. So that's why so many pet store pups can have problems, especially later on in life. It's very unfortunate these places still exist, but they do. And I'm glad that you've got this pup, and I'm glad that you've been able to give this one a home. So here's the thing. I want you to take pressure off yourself. This is a lot of what we talk about in Brave, is that, and these are courses that you will be able to take. They're for trainers that they can give to their clients, but they're also for all dog lovers. And they're going to be very easy and simple and great to utilize. But this is one of the things we tackle with the Brave. And the first thing is to take pressure off yourself. It is okay if you don't have a social butterfly. It is okay if you have a dog that tends towards nerves rather than just confident. We would love our dogs to be supremely confident, but not all of them are, especially when they've had a really bad start in life. And unfortunately, because that really important time, the first 8 weeks to 12 weeks of a dog's life, really forms their whole opinion of the world. After that 12 weeks, that primary socialization window closes. And if they haven't had exposure to different environments and situations and people and other animals and experiences, then they will have a tendency to feel overwhelmed throughout their lives. So that's why I say, first of all, take the pressure off yourself. It's okay. If you have this dog, it's okay. Secondly, go slow. Be patient and go slow. Now, the most important thing is that we don't put too much on these dogs because they can't cope with too much. So baby steps. Figure out what your dog really likes. Is it just a nice a nice comfy bed in a certain corner of the room? Does she like walking outside? Does she like chewing stuff? Does she like sniffing? And then maybe create some kind of game where she can do that. And that really helps with confidence. The other thing is to allow your dog to practice avoidance. This is a very powerful thing to do with a dog. And it's very easy. If your dog takes himself or herself away, finds a place to hide under or go to, let them do it, especially when there are people coming to the house. Don't force her to greet anybody. Don't force them on her and tell them to leave her alone. Practicing avoidance is absolutely empowering. When dogs come into our house, they don't really have many choices. They kind of have to follow our rules. And most dogs are fine with that, and other dogs find it really difficult. Well, we can empower them, especially if they're nervous, especially if they're fearful, by giving them a little bit of a sense of autonomy. We cannot give them full autonomy, of course, but we can give them a sense of it. When you don't have any control over you, when all control is taken away from you, it's really scary. It's disempowering, especially when you don't speak the language. So that from your dog's point of view. So if you can give your dog a sense of autonomy by setting a bed up away, and when your dog walks toward that bed and takes herself away from himself away from the situation, say good. Just mark it. That's all you need to do. And advocate for your dog by keeping people away. I also create these safe zones for dogs that are nervy. And it's a no children or no guests, no granny, no nothing zone. Only the person that the dog is comfortable with is allowed in that zone. And it can be a little room behind a baby gate. It can be a crate if the dog doesn't mind being crated, or it can just be a certain section in a room that is a no-go area. So good luck.
Victoria, we have about 15 minutes left, so we hope we can get through as many as we can. Gail writes in, my 12-year-old lab collie mix has always used whining as her voice. As an older dog, she has to do all of her things and whine so much more until all of those things are done. I think sometimes she forgets that we've done the things and the whining continues. Our vet did blood work to confirm she's healthy, and the vet says sometimes you get an older dog that just behaves this way. I don't like that she seems stressed. Is the whining stress or a voice?
I think if she's had a lot of experience of whining, I think that's just the way how she communicates. I mean, you've got to look at her body language. Is she pacing as she does it? Is she restless? Can she not settle? Again, she's a collie, so you're going to have to, when you see that those periods of whining are likely to occur, then again, redirect that energy onto something that she could work on, a puzzle or a dog toy or a treat ball or something that she can, that can kind of enrich her and give her something to do, and so that she doesn't have to focus on the whining. But there are some dogs that are so used to training you through whining, they get your attention and they get what they want. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a way that she expresses herself. As dogs get older and they do get into a certain amount of cognitive decline, and you can see the vocalizations getting stronger. And then you might see some stress behaviors happening. It's why you must look at body language. What's the body doing when your dog is whining? And from there you can say, well, yeah, my dog seems a little stressed out actually. And if you can, if you are a little bit worried, I would go see a vet behaviorist as well, because vet behaviorists, obviously they're dealing with behavior and the medical side, and they might be able to help you. They might give you some kind of pharmacological support so that your dog feels less stress. I would be, and I think that's absolutely fine. I don't like that always just being, you know, just giving the dog a pill and it's fine. No, it's just part of, the dog is really stressed out. It's part of like the many-pronged attack that we do to help dogs, or anxious dogs, whether they're elderly or not. We help them, just takes the edge off. So again, I don't think it sounds like a problem if she is doesn't seem to be stressed in her body language when she whines. It's just what she does.
We have two questions that are along the same line, so I'm going to try to combine them. There's a 12-year-old coonhound that struggles with pain due to arthritis and disc issues in his neck. Due to pain, he's unable to walk, but still desires stimulation from smelling. What can we do that will help get him outside without hurting his joints and neck? And then somebody else said their dog has Lyme disease and is lethargic. Would love to know if there's anything stimulating she can do. She doesn't walk well, she limps. So questions about what to do with dogs who have pain issues or not great mobility, not great with mobility.
Okay, so I love the Snuffle Mat. And the Snuffle Mat is, it's material that's sort of felt, and it has loads of, just looks like a mega huge shag carpet. And you hide little treats in there, right? Great for sniffing. And what you do for the dog that you don't want its neck to bend is that you can elevate the Snuffle Mat by putting it on something. So the dog walks over, and the Snuffle Mat could be at head height as well. But dog's using its sniffing and to try and get the its scenting ability to try and find the treats that have been hidden there. You can do that by putting a whole load of towels together and hiding food in there. And so it's a very low energy activity, but do think about elevated areas, because it's tough, especially for big dogs, especially for coonhounds, you know, when they're elderly, to keep putting their head down. But if you elevate food, obviously you've got to be careful with bloat and all of that kind of stuff, but if you elevate the Snuffle Mat and make it easy for your dog and put it head height, or maybe just a little lower than head height, and your dog has a great activity to do that's using that scenting ability. That is increasing the levels of dopamine in the brain, because that is seeking activity, and seeking activity increases the levels of dopamine in the brain, which is your kind of pleasure chemical. It also is very good for motor coordination, and also for the dog that is lethargic as well. Having a Snuffle Mat close by, that's another really great way. So there are licky strips and Snuffle Mats. If you don't have that, few cardboard boxes that you can hide on elevated areas and put stuff in so the dogs can go around. So there's various things you can do. Using that, I mean, that dog's ability to scent things out and their amazing noses, it doesn't matter how old the dog is. You can devise different games, as many different ones as you want, so the dog uses its nose and not a lot of energy. Mental energy, yes, but physical energy, no.
Okay, we have about 6 minutes left, so we'll see what we can get through here. Colleen writes that she has a 13-year-old lab mix, Joey, who was adopted about 5 years ago, and he's very attached to her husband, John. He whines whenever John leaves the house, and she's just wondering if there's anything she can do to comfort Joey. She said that he can't be bothered with her. So John is his person, and it seems like he's stressed when he leaves.
Yeah, you know, that's why they say that dogs are like 2 to 3 year old children, because they behave like toddlers, and they behave like little kids. They have the cognitive abilities of small children as well. There's something called the Strangest situation test, where you have a kid and an adult that they know, a parent, in a room with lots of toys, and a researcher's in there too. And the kid is very happily playing when the parent is there, but then the parent gets up and leaves, and then the kid suddenly stops playing, will not play again, and becomes quite stressed until the adult that they know or their parent comes back into the room. And the similar sorts of tests were done with dogs, and the same thing. There are some dogs that couldn't care, but most dogs, when the person that they know leaves them, they can't play, they get a little stressed out, they start to whine, and they wait by the door that the person goes out. So we know that dogs are attached to us. We know that dogs love us. And really that's kind of, when we're talking about bonding, that's at the very, very root, is that dogs have that ability to feel love. And we know that through chemicals and through tests, all kinds of research, including testing chemicals, the levels of oxytocin in their body, which is kind of a love bonding hormone, as well as others. But so it's interesting. Some dogs will just bond more to one person than another. Now, what can you do when your husband goes out? Does your husband feed the dog most? Does he walk the dog most? Because if he does, then he can start cutting back on that a little bit, and you take up the reins and you do a bit more. Maybe you now feed him some really yummy stuff, as in he just gets his normal kibble, and your husband is not allowed, so yeah, your significant other is not allowed to feed him or anything, but you're the only person that feeds the really good stuff, the chicken, the cheese, the steak, whatever it is. You might see a little bit of a change of behavior, so that actually just before he goes out, or when he goes out, oh, that's the trigger for the Kong toy to come out, stuffed with all the delicious food. You're going to see a dog that goes, oh yeah, bye now, or okay, could you leave the house please, because I want my Kong stuffed with food, because that's what I get every time you leave. Bye. Try it.
Yeah, she did say they take turns caring for him, but she did say he won't walk unless John is there.
Yeah, I mean, and that can be pretty normal. That can be pretty normal. What I'll do is, normally if dogs won't walk with us, with not one person or other, then I'll put the dog in the car and we'll go to somewhere totally different and walk around there. The dog will walk with you.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So Kay wrote that she has a 6-year-old poodle, Cammie, who is a rescue, and they did have 2 other poodles when they got Cammie, and sadly both have passed away this year. So now Cammie's an only child, and she says that there's lots of times that she doesn't want to eat her dinner. They try to take spoonfuls of it and put it on a wood floor or paper plate, glass bowl. They've tried different kinds of foods, with different toppings. They can't recognize a pattern to her behavior. She's not losing weight, and she will eat treats. But so they're just kind of wondering, if there's anything they can do to help her with, regularly eating her food.
Yeah. First of all, with that, take your dog to the vet just in case. It could be, did she eat when the other dogs were there? Did she eat with them? That would be something that I would ask. And what was she like? What were her food habits when the other dogs were there? Have they changed since the other dogs? Because sometimes dogs feel very comfortable eating, social eating, I call it. And when one of them dies, everything is very, very different. So as long as the dog is getting enough food, yeah, you can. I mean, this is a tough one because it's hard when it's like a food issue. But changing the location of where the dog is fed, changing the times where the dog is fed, changing the bowl that the dog is fed from, making dinner time a little bit more interesting, adding a little bit more of really high value food to which I know that they're doing, but maybe putting some of the food and toys, doing a hunting game, doing something that the dog loves to do, and introducing food in that activity. That's when I found that dogs that it gets them out of this, this grieving. B, it sort of diverts their attention and gets them out of that sort of emotional head. With all of these behaviors that I've been talking about, the brain, the human brain as well as the dog's brain, it kind of enjoys this sort of this relationship where when the emotional brain is activated, that deactivates the thinking brain, not completely, but and the same goes when the dog is thinking and problem solving, then the dog is less emotional. So in all of these things, it's finding ways with reactivity, with anxieties, with aggressive response, finding ways for you to give your dog doing things so that your dog is problem solving and thinking rather than emoting. And when you do that and you make that change, you'll find that your dog starts to go, oh, this is fun, or oh, this is cool, and will indulge in that activity more than how it feels, because dogs really feel. We need to treat dogs better. And I know we're going over time, but if I could leave you with this, is that for 20 years I've been training dogs, and I've been fighting kind of against the old ways of training dogs, using harsh methods, punitive methods, and also punitive equipment like shock collars and prong collars and things like that. And now that there are so many other great ways to train under one philosophy, which is just philosophy of being humane and kindness, we still have to do some rethinking on the way that we teach dogs. And it's understanding that these dogs now, through thousands of years of evolution, are now our family members. And so we have to treat them like family members, as well as celebrating their dogdom. And that means that we ditch all of those old style of training. We ditch all of that old style equipment. We really focus on teaching dogs life skills, understanding first, teaching dogs life skills, and allowing them to truly be successful in this domestic world. We put less labels on what we think their behavior is, and try and see that when the dog is reacting, maybe the dog is reacting because it's insecure, rather than calling it mean and nasty, things like that. Our dogs right now are our lifesavers. We owe them a lot for what they're doing for us right now. Now is a time to change the way that we talk to them, understand them, treat them, train them. And it's kind of it's like a new time now, which is very exciting, because not only am I just spouting all of this stuff, but universities all around the world are studying dog behavior, and we are now seeing inside dogs' brains when they are awake through functional MRIs, where dogs are positively trained to go into MRI machines, and we can see what they're thinking. And it is truly amazing. And so Brave, my protocol, is going to help that change. It's just like a rethinking of the way that we live with and work with our dogs.
Thank you so much, Victoria. That was really terrific. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge and really your passion for helping the world think about dogs in a different way and focusing on them as members of our families and thinking about their feelings rather than labeling. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. And thank you to all of you who participated today. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody, for listening. I really appreciate it. And yeah, look after your old dogs. They are an absolute gem. I'm going to go and hug mine. So thank you so much, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.